Hello, I'm Frost, and welcome to my regular weekly updates where I look at the strategy behind the conflict that is taking place as a result of PAPI invading the home region of Imperium. Welcome back. So, as we now get into the third week of this conflict, we now get into essentially, as the thumbnail would suggest, the grind period. And this is a case of just slowly but surely, PAPI forces are going to try and advance into Delve, and Imperium are going to try and make it as difficult as possible for them. And this involves a lot of waiting around in fleets, in stations, a lot of tit for tat, a lot of disinformation, and essentially trying to wear down the other side. Now, what we're going to do is, first of all, I'm going to go up to my little box. There we go. And we've got our usual Dotlan in front of us. Big thank you to Walari as well for making Dotlan. I'm just going to very quickly click up here on the donate button. If you use Dotlan a lot, then I highly suggest you support Walari. You can send him some ISK in game, you can do PayPal, and all kinds of other things as well. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Walari, especially as I use Dotlan a lot in these episodes. Let me bring up my calendar again. So we're looking at the week of the 26th of October 2020. And as you can see, the map is still pretty much the same, although the big notable element is that the one flag plant, or TCU, that has been planted in Delve belongs to XIX, which is Legion of Death. Now, what is interesting about this is that this is a Russian alliance, and the Russians have kind of been in the news with regards to this conflict this week, and we'll come on to that a little bit more later on. But the other funny thing for me is that XIX is part of the old defunct now DRF, which is the Drone Regions Federation. If we look at the universe quickly, the Drone Regions was up here in sort of Malpais, Peregrine Falls, Oasa, Cobalt Edge, etc., just up here in the top right-hand corner. And now they have planted a flag in Delve, which is about as far as you can get across New Eden. So XIX are definitely seen to be traveling, and they're now part of a new coalition called Fire. And Fire essentially was an amalgamation of the old DRF, which was, all the Russian alliances up in the northeast, and a big chunk of Steinwagen, which were the Russian alliances that used to live in the south and southeast. And we'll come back to that a little bit later, as I said. So that is all that's happening on the TCU front. Now, as you know from previous episodes, this is all about iHubs and all about logistic structures, so Sinojammers and jump gates. So if we go over to our constellation iHubs, you can see that this area down on the bottom right hand side, let's do it by constellation. So is the light purple one, or lilac, here in the bottom right hand corner. So that was the first constellation to kind of where all the iHubs were taken by the PAPI forces. They then moved on to these kind of light brown constellation here, which is LSC-4P. And these were kind of secured at the end of last week. So last Sunday was kind of when all these events happened. That's not Sunday the 25th. Then what happened from there is that up the top here in the north, this constellation called YX up here, these were all reinforced, but they weren't actually taken. And this is part of the kind of the Meiji form strategy that is starting to happen. Is that what you're finding is that the PAPI forces will be reinforcing a lot of structures, a lot of timers, and setting off a lot of timers, doing a lot of processing of iHubs to try and make the opponent form. And obviously PAPI are doing the same by coming back and hitting on iHubs that have already been won. And this is particularly noticeable in Quirius. So if I jump over to Quirius quickly, you can see all the highlighted systems are all ones that are being contested in one form or another. So especially this constellation down here, let me go into constellation name, there we go. So this kind of, I don't know, it's a sort of dark bluish purpley section in the south here. This is the one with the keep star that I mentioned last week. These are still getting reinforced on a regular basis, but also some in the north as well, just to constantly try and pull apart the coalition that is PAPI and split off forces and get them doing lots of different things. So coming back to Delve, what happened then is, like I said, so this LSC was secured. Then YX was reinforced, but no action was actually taken. Now, what was actually more noticeable was, or notable, rather than just these iHubs at the beginning of the week. So this was on the 26th. Let me bring my calendar back up again. Yeah, so on Monday, the 26th of October, was a jump gate was destroyed in QY1, which is down here. It's actually in Aquarius, down there. But what it does is it serves as a jump bridge or jump gate up to 1DQ, which is the Imperium staging. So that was kind of a big deal. And it was very, very surprising that this went down. In fact, I'll just go to my jump gates now. You can see, there we go, October 26th, and it's this one right here at 9:20 in the morning. So maybe that was something to do with it, that the timer came out of a bad time and it came out in Australian time zone. And so therefore, they weren't able to get enough forces together, because I know that is not a strong time zone for Goonswarm. They're much, much better in the US time zone, which is why all of their iHub timers are set in that US time zone. So that was really interesting. Now, a few other jump gates have been going down over time as well, and some came out right at the very end. So you've got this one in Dell C3N, where we could see that 8F was hit then on October the 27th. Then we've got another one in LWX here that was hit on October the 28th. Some of the old jump gates as well that were in Aquarius have also been taken down. So that has been really the focus of the PAPI forces, is just constantly hitting all of these jump gates. And NOL is particularly notable, as on the 27th, I believe it was, what happened was a lot of these, this constellation here of B4H, and a lot of the timers and stuff was set off in this particular constellation. And the Imperium forces formed up in NOL for a timer. And PAPI, rather than actually going for this timer, eventually deployed its forces to AJI and hit some jammers and hit some jump gates and stuff like that, instead of actually taking the reinforced timer, the kill timer that happened in NOL. So the PAPI forces are not looking for straight up confrontations if they can. And that's actually happening on both sides. Both sides at this stage do not want to throw everything they have this early. So essentially everybody is trying to make ground with as few losses as possible, as morale is a really, really important fact right now. And no one wants to be kind of on the losing end of a battle. And so on the NOL front, the Imperium forces were already set up, they were already in place, they knew exactly, it was their turf, they knew what they were doing. And so the PAPI forces decided to take some structures in AJA, not go for the kill timer, just reinforce some stuff instead. And instead of coming back through NOL to get home, they actually went the long way round and went all the way up and around through QTAC-H up to 6Q into the NPC Delve region and then ATAC-E, and then eventually bridge back to YZ9. So, conflicts are only happening when they really, really have to. So it is kind of, both sides are really saving up all of their assets, trying to waste as little as possible, as they know that when it comes down to kind of the big conflicts, they're going to need to throw everything they have into it. Having said that, if you remember from, I think it was 2 videos ago, maybe the last video, I mentioned about this whole constellation, the Lilac one, that's the WTAC-4 constellation, about how it was very, very difficult for the Imperium to actually kind of contest this because they couldn't get back home, and that potentially they could get Titans caught. As it happened, let me bring it up, an Erebus got caught on the Tuesday on a Raitaru of all things, as I understand. And basically Pandemic Horde were able to bump it off the structure and get it all bubbled and scrammed with heavy dictors. And then they came in with a bunch of dreadnoughts and killed this Erebus for a kill of 87 billion. Now, and the other thing as well was that Pandemic Horde kept this all to themselves. You can see that all of the players involved with it, through any Pandemic Horde, they decided they want this all for themselves. And that's what happens when you have you're trying to move Titans around in an area where you do not have the right force projection. And so this Titan died, and that is why I think this constellation was never ever fought over, was because of this. Now, the next thing that happened was on Wednesday the 28th, something really interesting happened in terms of the Sinojammer. So a Sinojammer was hit, let me bring it up, in 1DQ1. Now, 1DQ1, if you're not already from previous videos, it's this system right over here. And that is the main staging system for Goonswarm and the Imperium. And literally, this was a case of not just proverbially poking the hornet's nest, but literally doing it. It was going into the staging system and hitting the Sinojammer in 1DQ. And this actually ended up turning into quite a big conflict. And it happened in the EU time zone. And I have the battle report here. And the things I want to bring up with this battle report are actually quite interesting, because one of the main focuses from the Imperium is they say that they can hold their own, they're just outnumbered. And if they can grind down the numbers of PAPI players that are actually involved in conflicts, then they have a fighting chance and they can stand their ground. And this is why they want to grind people down. And if you actually look at this conflict, Team A, which is PAPI, had 747 people in the conflict, and Team B had 720. And if you look at the is lost, Team A lost 22 billion, which is PAPI, and then Imperium lost 26 billion, which isn't far off from each other. And obviously they lost the objective, they lost the Sinojammer. Although they could just pop another one straight up afterwards, it wasn't that big of an issue. But it actually shows that, what Imperium is saying, can stand true. And the other thing that I noted was something I mentioned previously, which my concern was about the number of FCs that Goonswarm can bring to, or the Imperium, should I say, can bring to a fight. Because the PAPI is made up of so many alliances with so many FCs that are well trained. Could the Imperium do the same? And they were outnumbered like 2-3 to 1 in terms of FCs in the battles in I think it was, let me just bring it up quickly, it was in QY6 or K-6, I can't remember, it was one of these two systems. But in this one you will see that PAPI brought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 monitors, which is normally your good indication of who your FCs are. And Imperium bought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So much more level there on the FC front. So it is very much a case here of both narratives are kind of playing out. That PAPI is saying they're making ground, which they are. And on the same side, you've got Imperium saying, well, the moment you're outnumbered, yeah, then we're going to struggle. But if we wear you down enough, then we stand a fighting chance. So this was interesting for that aspect. And the very last thing with this battle report is you will notice that there were no caps involved whatsoever. So it was very, very difficult to, they could project their caps into 1DQ, and it was possible for PAPI to do it, but they didn't. And the moment they kind of put up a good fight, they knew they could put up another Sinojammer, and so therefore the Imperium felt they didn't want to deploy caps. So both sides are really holding their capital forces back as much as they can, unless they're trying everything they can clearly not to escalate on both sides at this stage. So there you go. So that was something that's very, very interesting that kind of happened midweek. Now, just while I'm here as well, if you enjoy my content, then do give me a like, do subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications. I'm trying to do this on a weekly basis and keep you up to date on what's happening in EVE Online, and also do sci-fi gaming stuff, much more types of sci-fi gaming as well. So thank you for that if you have. All right, so moving on. So coming back, so as we know, if we go back to our iHubs, the iHubs are all in the US time zone. So as a consequence of that, the EU time zone doesn't have much to do from the PAPI front. And their main job has been to hit Sinojammers and jump gates. They've kind of been running out. So what they've started doing now is they've started hitting structures, and particularly Satios and Tataras, as these are high value items and they look good on a kill board. Players like to go for a kill on a Satio, they get like a 60-70 bill kill on their kill board, which they're happy to farm for. So it's good for boosting numbers, etc. They haven't actually managed to kill them as of the time of recording this, but they have, put some into kind of final timers, especially around this area. I think it was QY6 or K-6 again. There was some Tataras and Satios there that were hit, I think on Thursday. And so, they're trying to just create as many timers as possible. And then from there, And this now brings us on to something else that happened around that kind of time, which was midweek, and that is Red Alliance. Now, Red Alliance are a Russian alliance, and they were originally, if I remember correctly, they were part of Steinwagen. I remember fighting Red Alliance when I was fighting the war in Catch in about 2015, I think it was. And they kind of became kind of part of Fire. But their history was that they used to live, if we go to here, they used to live kind of in period basis. And if you go to the universe, they were kind of part of Steinwagen. So they're always in like period basis, Esatoria, then they ended up in Tenerifis. They even ended up as far as Innsmother, but they've always kind of been in the south. And they've kind of been neutral to Goonswarm a lot. And they involved, when Test moved down into kind of the south, they would regularly attack, and do deals with or do work with Imperium on Test. I remember a Test supers being caught and stuff like that, and it was like a joint effort between Red Alliance and Goonswarm. So they have history, but they eventually ended up getting kind of kicked out of the south, and they were given a couch by Fire, which is kind of the new Russian coalition, which I mentioned earlier in this episode. And so they were given a couch up in Innsmother, and this week they have flipped. So they have gone over to the Imperium. Now, I don't know how that's going to play out. They bring quite a few members, and they're clearly in the mood to fight. The fact they want to make the switch means that they want some conflict. And I'm not quite sure how they're going to manage to do it. Obviously, there's logistical issues of that. If all their stuff is currently in PAPI structures, they kind of got to move them out of structures that are now read to them. Either that, or there was a deal where there was kind of a structure that was made blue to them so they could evac all their stuff on the quiet. I don't know quite all the story with that. If someone's got some info, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. But yeah, so Red Alliance have flipped over to the Imperium and bolstered their numbers a little bit. So we'll see how that plays out. Now, a couple of more things. As we come on towards the end of the week, then the next point of call was this area down the bottom here. So the constellation, which is OK Tac Fem. And the bottom here, which is kind of a light orange, I suppose. Just pick your own color. It's like a beigey orange. There we go. So it's this area down the bottom here. Now, this area was reinforced, and it's all part of as I said in previous episodes, that my view that the strategy is to move along the south towards 1DQ and to clear all the iHubs and stuff. So this is actually the next natural progression for them. And the thing with OK Tac is that I have noticed now that PAPI are starting to drop Fortizars down this route. So there's a few around kind of these two new constellations here that are being dropped, and that is essentially for force projection. It's the ability to provide the ability to dock anything but obviously supers and super capitals, but things like faxes, dreads and stuff can all be moved forwards, which makes them much easier to deploy and to push up the conflict and to escalate conflict. It also makes it easier to move ships into place in advance of a conflict and have them nearby on standby. And so therefore you can, for example, jump them in with a Titan from YZ9 forwards into a Fortizar, leave your fleet there for 30 minutes, clears their jump fatigue, which then allows you to then jump forwards again. And it just enhances your force projection into various areas. So yeah, interesting. So that's happening with PAPI. Now, on Sunday night, which was last night, so there, bring back my calendar again, that was the 1st of November. All these timers were coming out in the US time zone. So early morning, 2nd of November, so in the middle of the night, UTC. And what happened, which was very interesting, is that the Imperium started going off into period basis and started hitting some structures down here. In the meantime, a whole bunch of timers came out in this MPJ constellation in Aquarius. Literally all these iHubs were hit. And as you know, there's that Keepstar in 49U. So there was kind of timers going off there as well. And then what happened from there is, if you go back to Delph, there we go. Then the Imperium started to try and pop in Sino jammers in this constellation of OK TAC to try and obviously allow them to stop capitals from escalating so they could defend the iHubs. And what they were trying to do clearly was they were trying to split forces. So they were trying to force PAPI to split their forces across multiple areas at the same time, so that they could obviously disband this kind of numbers advantage that PAPI have. And they clearly saw from the battle in 1DQ that if they can do it at even odds, then they stand a much better chance. So that was interesting how that played out. And unfortunately, in the end, these Sino-Germans weren't able to be put down. I don't think all of them were put down. I think one maybe in MO was successful, but the other couple, in fact, we can actually look at the Sino-Germans here. So you could see that 1 TAC 2 and 9G TAC are both in that constellation, and those were both taken down. But interesting to see how that strategy is playing out. But the end result is that PAPI are still advancing. Sorry, wrong map. There we go. Let me go back to iHubs. And they have now managed to secure, as of this morning, that's early morning, middle of the night, UTC, 2nd of November. These iHubs have been secured, and this means no longer any jump gates or Sino-Jammers are possible now for Imperium in this area. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So yeah, things are still progressing, things are moving forwards, and it all comes down to whether this grind can be maintained, and we'll see what happens over the next week. Right, that's it from me. I hope you found that interesting. Hit the bell icon, like, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. Join my Discord as well. I need to create an EVE Online channel. If you want to discuss all this stuff, I'm always happy to talk about it. You can join my Discord, come and say hello there personally. And I'm on Twitch. If you like Planetfall, I stream that on a Wednesday night regularly. Right, that's everything from now. Thank you for watching. Until the next one, I'm losing my voice. And see you soon. Bye.